I'm doing it on Instagram tonight too for the first time because now StreamYard is integrated that. So we'll see how it works out because I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how well it works.
But now there's a delay on Instagram.
Yeah, I think that when you guys used to do the lives when you first started, it delayed a lot on Instagram.
Oh, I'm wondering if I close Instagram, is it still up? I don't know. I just got a notification saying like, "Hey, you can do Instagram now." But I'm not keeping that up and hearing the delay, so I guess not. But either way, it's Monday. Snakes and Stogies 189. We are here. Obviously, Phil is not here. Phil ended up having to get involved with some work-related stuff last minute, so he unfortunately had to take the night off. But Mr. Michael Gillen, our fellow resident Canadian, has filled in. This episode is brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. You need a rack, you need a cage, you prefer racks, you prefer cages, whatever it might be. BlackBox has it. Check them out. Use code THN at checkout to save yourself 10% off your order. If you're in the general Southeast area, there's a pickup option to make it a weekend trip. Go pick up your stuff, save yourself a bunch of money on shipping and freight and stuff, and just go grab it yourself. Full Visa Apparel. Also use the code THN to check out. Get 15% off your order. That is just for THN listeners and viewers like you. Puget Sound Pythons, good people in the Pacific Northwest. Give them a follow. Big season coming up. Stay in the loop with what they've got going on and what's available via Morph Market, Facebook, and Instagram. And then the best coffee money could buy. Snakes and Stogies blend of cold-blooded caffeine. I got me 2 bags coming tomorrow to take with me on vacation next week. And it's going to be good. So you can see the craftsmanship and that Chloracus label. Really good blend. Mexican, Rwandan. Really interesting. Something different. It's good. So please go check that out. Link down below or coldbloodedcaffeine.com. Use the code SNAKES or S and S, but it's S ampersand S. So not SANDS. It's S and symbol S. I probably should change it to make it a little bit easier, but we'll cross that bridge later. We're here. Update wise, I don't really have anything going on. Nothing is new. Things are still in cooling. Chondros are still locking, but no signs of any action there, other than them locking. So Christmas is coming up. This is the last Snakes and Stogies of the year. We're going to have our end of the year network show on Thursday. I don't know if that'll be live or not yet. I haven't talked to the guys to figure out what they would rather do. And then we're taking, we'll come back in the new year. So we like to take the last 2 weeks or so of December off and kind of kick it because everyone's busy anyways. So, yeah, you won't see us for a little while, but it's a nice break. So, Mike, what's going up yonder?
Yeah, lots of rain. Not too much. I got the subox, both pairs of subox information. Only one will maybe go next year. That'd be yours. Actually, she took a swing at me when I checked on her last week. She didn't really like me checking on her when she was 50 degrees. And then all the Kentuckys are in brumation, and another pair of pine snakes that I won't be reading, but save some money on food.
Yeah.
And then, so I ended up getting... So I got one Bahama boa of one of the only litters produced in Canada. And so I got a male from there. And then a couple months... So the next weekend, I helped my buddy at a reptile show. And he ended up having one of the 3 pairs of adults that came in the country 5 years ago or so.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to bug him enough to call me a month later asking if I wanted the pair. So I traded him a whole litter of sandboas for them. The best trade of all time, other than the female did need some veterinary care just because we don't really know at the moment, but she does have like a swollen jaw and it's kind of stalling right now, so hopefully it's nothing cancerous or anything.
Yeah.
But we're I'm, she's been to the vet a few times and hopefully she pulls through. But the male and that they look stunning, and other than her jaw and her, actually the best part is she dropped 19 slugs and nobody knew she was even carrying anything.
Wow.
But she, even after that, her body tone is still not terrible, and
Hmm.
she's, other than her face, she looks pretty good, which is hope fingers crossed that she pulls through, and in a couple of years we make some more Bahama boas.
Yeah, that's cool. I can't imagine a lot of that Kylobothra stuff is easy to get up there.
Yeah, I believe so. The Thomas Huff guy that actually created the term herpetoculture, he he's wrote many of the first papers on captive breeding of Puerto Ricans, Jamaicans, Cubans. If you look it up on was it Google Scholar,
Yeah.
his are some of the first things that come up from like anywhere from the 70s to early 80s. So
Hmm.
we had all this stuff in Canada, and even I think I remember Rob and that saying that the Jamaicans and Puerto Ricans and stuff all came from his stock, but now there's none of it left. There might have been a couple Haitian boa stuff. I remember Tyrone saying that was in the country like 20 years ago. But other than that, I think a couple guys. They brought in 4 Dominican boas, and 6 Bahama boas, I believe, of 2 different localities of the Bahamas. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's what we got. But I think with the loosening of like the Puerto Ricans, that we might be able to maybe bring in some Puerto Ricans from Europe, depending on paperwork. But that would be neat.
Yeah, I did. Wasn't there recently? I don't know if I read it or if there was a video or something I had found, but they were saying that basically the population of Puerto Ricans had become considerably more stable to the point to where they felt more comfortable not, I guess, taking them a notch down on CITES or something similar.
Yeah, I believe as of February or January, they went down to CITES 2.
Mm-hmm.
So theoretically, you
Yeah.
could probably ship them, other than unless. But I thought I heard that you guys still have them as a endangered species ESA
Yeah,
type thing.
probably. I know
So
there's literally only a handful of guys in the country that have them and actually breed them on a fairly consistent basis. But man, Jamaicans are at the top of my list for those. Like, again, if I had more space, and eventually I would like to, like, I plan on making some space for subflavus because those things are just incredible. And the fact that like they're doing so well in captive collections here in the U.S., but they're still so heavily restricted and regulated, in Jamaica. It's kind of laughable because it's like I don't know of any people that are actually going down to Jamaica and smuggling these things. And the big part of the problem there is like people are killing them because they think that there's some sort of mysticism about them, or they're gonna whatever those weird wives' tales type deals. Um, they're getting killed on sight by a lot of
oh
that
yeah,
crowd. So I would love to have some though. It's an awesome snake.
yeah. I believe Thomas Huff actually originally in the 80s, I want to say, he tried to he started a captive population of them, obviously. But I believe he wanted to actually like reintroduce some into Jamaica, but then Jamaica said no because they don't like snakes, kind of thing back then.
Yeah, yeah, that doesn't
So
surprise me. I'm sure it wouldn't be much different now.
yeah, which is terrible.
Randy's not too far from you. He's got a bunch of Dominican Reds. He says he has a ton of them that he needs to part with.
I've been debating it because the Cody Joe in Alberta, who's the guy that bred the Bahamas and the Dominicans up here, he bred Apodora this year, which is pretty
Mm-hmm.
neat. So I think I want to say he's probably one of the first or second people in Canada to breed Apodora. But he did make Dominicans again this year. and I've been eyeballing them since they were born. And it's just like, but like I kind of also want to just create a mini army of Bahama boas, so it's a give and a take.
It's a good bargaining chip, man. You get the army of those, and then someone else has, Randy has all the Dominicans, and he's like, let's swap them.
Oh yeah,
Get a little horse trading going on.
yeah. You just have to show them how cool the Bahamas are, because they're like an inland version of the Dominicans. When the Dominicans are like the hypo-bredli. Although the
Yeah.
Bahamas do have some really they have the bluish gray, blacks, and even a little bit of browns. Babies are more brown, but as they get older, that shifts to grays and blacks, and they're a really beautiful snake.
Yeah, that whole genus, man. It's one of those things where I feel like I have to see them all individually, but in front of me at the same time to sort of really appreciate like the Fords and the Cubans and the Bahamas and stuff like that. It's just such a oddly scattered group, with just the tons of islands and stuff down there.
Oh yeah, even with the Bahamas, there's each island is theoretically like they try to keep locality within the islands, because each island kind of looks different, and the island groups kind of split into 5 or 6 different subspecies, I believe. I got the Caribbean boa book, and it has everything in it, even the Corrales and the boa localities in the Caribbean. So it's a really neat book that everybody should have.
Yeah, I just got a copy of that. I worked with the Virgin Island boas when I was at St. Louis, the Monensis, and
that's sweet.
They're now Grantii. I think they're now split from Reynolds, and yeah, I actually gave him a tour of our facility because the curator at St. Louis, he's big into the island boas, and he wants to get a program going with them. And it was awesome getting to talk to Dr. Reynolds about it. And then I just got a copy of his book. I haven't quite cracked into it yet, man, but I'm chomping at the bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I just got a pair of which ones from Ornatus, I think. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
I think I just got a pair of those. They're not with me now, but I live in the Florida Keys, so like it's like set up for island boas, man. I'm like, yeah, give me everything. Like I want them all. I've got a wall behind me that I want to be stacked with them. So
that's sweet. Yeah, I wish we could get all those. Like even Chrysogaster, and I think Exules were in Canada at one point. Those are insane. There's a picture of Exules in the what's his name? The Python and Boas book from like the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
There's a picture of some of that stuff in there, and it's like, this stuff has been in herpetoculture for so long, and they've been forgotten they've been in herpetoculture for 50, 60 years, and people still don't follow them as much as they should.
Have you seen the Argentum, I think is their scientific name, the newer species?
Oh yeah, it's like the first chapter.
Yeah. I think that's what his talk was on, and yeah, it was just like, gosh, this is awesome. So he was talking to us, Dr. Reynolds. He's like, yeah, if we can set something up for captive rearing, maybe we could get the zoo tied into it. And I was like, oh, that's so cool,
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
It's just awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see the work that he does in the future with just that genus of snakes, because he's a stellar guy and he's really doing them justice. So it's pretty dope.
Alec, are you at liberty to explain how the process of how zoos set up species survival plans? Like how do they decide? Is it like a voting process in terms of what gets decided on? What is the focus? Is it?
So I actually I don't have a lot of experience with that. My zoo career actually ended kind of abruptly by my own choice, because my dream was always to be a herp keeper at a zoo, and then before grad school I was that, and then after grad school I went back to St. Louis and had a quick year stint there and realized it wasn't kind of what I wanted to do. But my understanding of it is basically they'll identify a species that's of real great concern, and you'll get a few zoos that pool together and kind of start a program. At least with my time at St. Louis, there was different levels of which zoos were like invested, I guess you
Right.
would say, in the protection of a group or a species. And yeah, it just kind of depends. And they're changing the programs now, I believe. I don't think they're going to be considered like SSPs anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be turned into, I think it's called SAFE, but I'm not 100% on that. So
It just seems like so many things with zoos appear to be a lot of paperwork and red tape kind of stuff, and so I can only
it
imagine
is.
them deciding to figure out what species they're going to protect takes a long time to actually get it decided on and finalized. And
Yeah, and it also depends. Like, it depends on kind of what your curator's into. I mean, in all reality, if you've got a curator that's really into, you know, I'm trying to think, Southeast Asia or whatever, you know, they're gonna your department's gonna gear towards that.
right,
So, because of Dr. Etling, St. Louis Zoo is very geared towards Western Asia, and so we had done a lot in regions, Armenia.
Yeah.
They would send keepers there, you know, quite often. So yeah, a lot of it depends on that. I mean, I worked under two different curators. One of them was starting a Cuban croc initiative, and after she had departed from the zoo, you know, the next curator took over, and you know, it was getting refocused. And I'm really excited to see what they do because he's into the Western Asian stuff, and also again those island boas, which, you know, from my time there, I just absolutely fell in love with. So I can't wait to see what that department does and just how they take off with it. It's a stellar place.
The Western Asian stuff is overlooked a lot. I mean, there's a ton of really cool stuff out that way, and with the stuff that, like the Montevipera stuff in Iraq and Iran, and would those count towards that, or is that?
Yeah, that general region, I think it all kind of counts. Again, I'm not 100%, but I know a lot of species can be found, especially between like Armenia and Iran. You can find some, and you know, they're crossover. So I would guess it would all be kind of treated the same. That might be like right on that line where you go,
Right.
you know, Middle East versus Western Asia, but yeah.
Are you guys so many like monotypic species, man, that people just don't know exist. You know, so cool.
Like I started off interning there in like 2019, and I had never looked at European herps, Western Asian herps, nothing. Like I was a big Varandid guy, and you know, and then all of a sudden, one of the keepers that I became friends with was like, "Hey, like this is what we work with. You know, this is what we're big into. Like, what are your thoughts?" And I mean, I ran through like the European snake book and was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" Like with like the Montevipera, I mean, some of those species are hibernating for over 8 months out of the year, and they're active for just such a, I mean, small amount of time, and it's just so weird, and they're just cool. You can't, you know, and a lot of it too is they're very understudied because a lot of the regions were originally, you know, they're originally Russian, and so Russian scientists, you know, back in the day weren't as thorough, and so like my buddies that still work there, they go over there and they're constantly discovering, you know, new locales where animals are found, just weird, cool things, and it's, you know, gotta love to see that. So,
Are you guys working with any of those salamanders in the Iran and that? So any of the
so we had Kaiser Eye. We did, and like again, I'm pretty sure. Like I said, I haven't been working there in basically a year now, and I haven't visited in a while, so I can't remember exactly. But I know we had Kaiser Eye. We actually had, like, my buddy was the one that ran those, and they had to take them like off exhibit because they were just like producing too much. He was like, the only way to display them is aquatic, and if they're aquatic, they breed. And you know, cycling was down pat. So but yeah, we had those guys. I don't think we had many others from like those regions, of course. So
I'd imagine some of those are so specialized because I know there's some of those cave species and stuff to where it's like getting the parameters down to keep those successfully is probably pretty tough.
Well, and with the like Iranian and Iraqi stuff, it's a geopolitical thing at this point.
Right.
You know, you can't You can't if you're American, you can't go over there. So
it's a freaking shame too, man, because you see some of those videos of Iran and some of like the just the territories and stuff just across that entire country. Like everyone thinks it's kind of just desert and stuff, and it's
if you don't have the Edition Chimera, it's Reptiles and Amphibians of Iran book, go and buy it. I bought it because I saw it was coming out. I was at St. Louis and I was like, oh yeah. And I finally got through all of it and I was like, oh my gosh, it's an awesome book. So, and it makes you wish that you could go there, maybe one day, but just see what happens.
Don't think it's going to be anytime soon.
No, unfortunately not. And you don't think about the different like ecosystems and regions from what's what you see online and stuff. It's all just, a lot of people think it's just desert. It's not that.
Yeah, not at all.
There's some really awesome places there that have some really unique species that are, again, just understudied and no one knows much about. So.
No Caspian tigers behind exhibit?
Unfortunately not.
Well, I know we're like 20 minutes in, but our guest this evening is Alec Schmacht. Is it Schmacht or Schmacht?
Schmacht. Yeah, that's the fun German name.
Nice. Who recently went to South Africa, and so we, figured, I saw the pictures he'd posted, and I was like, we gotta talk about it. So here we are. If you want to sort of just, you can give a brief or long-winded version of your journey through herps up until this point. Completely up to you, but just sort of quick background information and some context.
Yeah, for sure. So was like born and raised just north of Denver. I got into herps real young age, like most people. Local reptile store, was where I got my first job. Really like fell into it there. Was keeping. By the time I think I was in fourth grade, my room was stacked full of different herps and stuff. I had probably over 20 to 30, and then that continued to grow. Ended up going to college in Missouri. Got my bachelor's. Started interning at a few different zoos. One being I interned at Denver in their tropical discovery, and then I got an internship at a butterfly aviary in Branson, Missouri, which was really cool.
That's
and
cool.
Then it was a different side of things. They had a reptile like area, but the entomologist actually had met me at a show and was like, dude, like we literally bought animals from you, basically. Like, you don't need to do the herps. Like, let's get you into something different. So I did that, and then internship at St. Louis Zoo, which turned into a part-time job right as COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
The curator there introduced me to Dr. Loafman, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with Dr. Loafman. To which him and I after our first phone call, we hit it off, and I ventured over to West Virginia to get my master's underneath him for my thesis. It changed a handful of times. I was going to do varanids, I was going to do indigo snakes, and I landed on hellbenders. So I did a field-based study with different capture techniques on eastern hellbenders in the northern West Virginia panhandle. About 3/4 of my way through grad school, I got a job back at St. Louis Zoo as a full-time keeper, in which I worked there for around a year. I left that for some other opportunities. Was one being, I moved to Costa Rica for a bit and then came back, and now I'm living in the Keys. Currently don't have any actual herps at my house, which is so weird. My business partner, Brennan Weekly, he's still based in Missouri. He's got all of our stuff. But yeah, we work with a lot of Morelia, of course. That's what got me really going. And Brennan has added fuel to that fire because he's one person I talked into liking Morelia. Everyone else growing up wanted ball pythons, and I was like, oh, but these carpet pythons, man. And it's grown past that. So we work with boa don. We've got striped house snakes. We've got Madagascar cat-eyed snakes. We've got northern pines. We've got Mexican northern pines too. We've got a pair of Bimax. Morelia, we've got inlands, Bredeli, jungles, Darwins, Brisbane coastals. What else am I forgetting? Oh, rainbow boas, Amazon tree boas, emerald tree boas, green tree pythons. We've got some really nice Okeechobee cow corn snakes. Yeah, dude. I got those from Loafman. He was like, yeah, I think I'm going to get rid of these. And I was like, you're sending them to me. Those are not going anywhere, my friend. And then I've got some Desert Kings. We've got the island boas that we're working with. What else? I think we've got like one day gecko from a pair that we bought years ago. So just a handful of a lot of different species. We had more. Before I moved to Costa Rica, we were working with boiga, scrub pythons. What else? Of course, got to have false water cobras if you come out of Loafman's lab. So I had some of those.
I feel like that's like a requirement that when you graduate, like he's giving you a handful of those, and like
they're coming out of the walls at that point. He's just like, take them, and you're like, all right, cool. I could take those. So a handful of different species. Worked with a lot of different stuff throughout my time in herpiculture, and it's been a good time. Now I'm working seasonally as a biological consultant, like a technician, and traveling when I can. I've just, like I said, just did South Africa. We just got caught up in the Bahamas for like 4 days on an island that didn't have Bahama boas, so that sucked due to weather. And I've got a trip to Australia booked for March. So
nice.
Yeah, man, a lot of traveling going on. Excited for that, and excited to see everything that I can.
Costa Rica, man, I want to get down there at some point. I think my wife and I have kind of settled on that being sort of our first international trip. That's just been on my list for a long time. I mean, being into dart frogs as much as I am, like that's what I have more interest in seeing dart frogs in the wild than I do most snake species. As weird as that seems for me, but it just seems like such a great place to go, and it sounds like it's fairly, trip wise as far as travel and stuff. It sounds like it's fairly inexpensive compared to a lot of others too.
Yeah, it's not bad. I didn't have the best of time herping and stuff. We were there during the dry season, so it was rougher time. But I got the cat-eyed snakes, I think, that are down there. Of course, we got bothrops. Just common stuff. I didn't get anything crazy. I did get a milk frog. That was pretty dope. That was cool. It was like we were eating dinner and it was on a post right next to where we were eating, and it was like, oh hey, that's a milk frog. That's pretty awesome. So,
where in Australia are you going?
So we are flying into Sydney, and we're going to be doing a loop to the. We're going to try to get as far inland as we can without going to Alice Springs. And then looping back down to the southeast and coming up the coast there. And then after that, we've got like a 3-day stint in Tasmania that we're doing, trying to find, of course, the giant crayfish, because, again, come out of Loafman's lab. He is an astacologist, so gotta like those two. So yeah, so we're renting a camper truck and just gonna be driving and camping along the way, man. Hoping to turn up some bobtails, monitors, natophis, all that fun stuff.
Awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun.
I'm so excited. Like I said, I'm a verandid nut, so I'm not going to the most dense areas for verandids, but if I see a lace monitor or a Rosenberg's monitor, I might cry. I'm not sure yet. So
what was the getting into the South Africa trip? Sort of, what was the purpose for that?
Yeah, so actually, one of my friends, she's a girl that was she was an undergrad when I was in grad school, got accepted into a university for her master's in Bloemfontein, South Africa, studying giraffes. She's doing a study on how different noises, basically how the giraffes, are affected by that noise pollution. And she was figured out she was going there, and I basically was like, "Can I come visit you?" And she was like, "Yeah, come on." So that was literally the premise of it. I was like, "Well, I got a friend in South Africa. I can, go there, find a relatively cheap flight, don't have to worry about lodging, spend 2 weeks running around herping and, helping her with her project." And we ended up splitting it and going to Port Elizabeth for part of the trip, which was really cool, going down, to coastal region. And yeah, that was basically it, man. It was to visit a friend and help her with her project and herp when I could.
How many species did you find when you were there?
I actually didn't find that many. Again, like herping wasn't the main. I wish it was the main part of the trip. But I mean, I would say not more than probably 10 or 15. Like, which that's after 2 weeks. It kind of sounds a little sad, but no, it was good. It was a fun time. It was definitely interesting too. Like it was a different being in that region of the world. It was herping was a little bit different, and so it took some getting used to. But yeah, no, it was good. I didn't get quite as many species as I wanted, but still had a fun time.
How long of a flight is that?
So if you buy the cheapest ticket that you can, you end up flying to Istanbul, Turkey, which is about a 13-hour flight. You hang out in Istanbul for about 9 hours, and then you fly basically the whole continent of Africa to South Africa, which is another like 9 hours. So I was traveling for like 40 something hours each way. And that was a lot. And like I had like that right amount of time for a layover in Turkey, and I was like, oh, like gonna jump out and herp. Like, heck yeah, man, let's go. Let's knock some stuff off there, and then realize, it's not warm in Turkey at this time of year. So quickly didn't do that, and it was probably good that I didn't. I don't know if I would have made it back. So but yeah.
Yeah, South Africa would be nice. It's that's another one though where I've always sort of heard mixed things as far as the sort of the geopolitical aspect of things, and seems to always be various degrees of hostility going on. But I guess that's more dependent on where you are in the country itself. But
yeah. Overall, like I mean, like, and it's that's still going on. There is that. It's interesting because like from the guys that I was there with explaining it, right now is a time where there could be some political unrest, just from new. I think they have a president. I can't remember, but they're electing a new leader in the current dominating party. Might get upset by another party, and that can cause a bunch of issues. Overall, Bloom was like good. The Port Elizabeth area, that was interesting. I don't know if I pride myself on this or not, but my friend has lived there for over a year, and I put her in her second most sketchy situation ever, herping, of course. I met up with some local snake catchers and herpers there, which I can't say enough about. Those guys are awesome. But one of them, we were driving back after a day of herping, and he was like, "Yeah, like over here," and I was like, "Oh, like I remember that store. Like, yeah, I want to herp that hillside. Like, what do you think?" And he was like, "Oh, go ahead." He's like, "You're good." So like 2 days later, her and I went there in the evening, and I like messaged him before. I was like, "Hey, we're gonna hit this. If you want to come, or if you think it's a bad idea, just let me know." And I didn't hear back from him. I was like, "Oh, we'll be fine." So we get into the middle of this hillside, and he's like, "I would not be there right now. It's a very likely chance you get stabbed if you're there." And like I'm in the middle of flipping a rock, and I got this message, and I was like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna get out of here. Let's get back to the car." So, but yeah, it's an interesting place, man. You gotta definitely have your head on a swivel. That's for sure. So there was areas we would herp, and the guy's like, "Yeah, like we could get Cape Cobras over on that side, but that's where the gangs hang out, so we're not gonna go over there. Like we don't want to get stabbed or shot." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's not do that." So,
I'd prefer we didn't.
Yeah, I'm having a good time, and I don't feel like ruining that. So like I just found this tortoise. I want to keep the vibes up, not bring them down. So, but
Chris Trippy said my old food runner got kidnapped in South Africa.
Uh,
You need more
Yeah.
context there. Young college kid wandering around. Yeah, maybe I just haven't traveled enough, but that's like my biggest fear is like getting kidnapped abroad and having like no control over it. Like whatever happens, happens. Like you don't. I mean, aside from picking up a rock and trying to like fight back and run, you know.
So, I mean, a lot of it is just like don't put yourself in those situations. Like it's very easy as long as you're got a decent head on your shoulders, you know, and you're not super naive. Like just don't put yourself in a sketchy situation and you'll be fine. Some of the guys, you know, one thing about South Africa is there's so much fear behind the snakes and stuff there. So like we were going out looking for chameleons and stuff, and the guy I was with, Merrick, he was like, "Hey, if we see people, he's like, go right into the bush." He's like, "They will not follow you into the bush because they are terrified of it." And I was like, "All right, cool,
Safe zone.
that's fine." I'm not terrified of it. I hope I find something when I'm in there. So like, let's go. So
well, I would also hope that something like that would be like you're out. So if you end up in those sketchy parts and people are like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "Oh, we're here looking for snakes." To be like, "Oh, okay, carry on." You know, like
yeah, I don't know, man. There's you saw the chameleon pictures. We hit that up and awesome time finding chameleons, and all of a sudden we got off the hillside and got in the car, and again the guy Merrick was like, "Yo," he's like, "roll the windows up, lock the doors. This is not a safe area. We got to get out of here." It was like, sweet, let's get the heck out of here, man. So
yeah, I actually have. I'll pull those up because I've got the pictures. Smitty would only get kidnapped if a van said free Castani corns inside. You're not wrong. Let's see.
So, dude, that monitor right there, that was like a huge deal for me because I used to keep those. Like that's one of the animals that got me into herpetoculture.
Yeah.
Like I was looking through memories like I don't know 2 days ago, and I found a picture of me holding my first blackthroat, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Like I was
man,
did that.
The blackthroats in particular, you don't realize how big they get until you see some of those pictures of like full, just diesel adults.
Yeah, see, and that's it. These guys were. This is one of the white throats, I believe. The black throats are more up north. So these guys do stay smaller. They're like, I believe, like 4 feet max, but like still just subspecies out, But just a rock monitor, it was like, gosh dang.
Yeah, I mean, how long was that? Like how?
He was about 3.5 feet, 4 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got I didn't post one. I got a picture of me holding it. You can get more of a size to it, man. That was such a cool animal. That was like my highlight of the trip was that guy right there. Honestly, I told the herp guy, the guy I was with, Jade, I was like, "Yo, rock monitor." It's like, "Get me a monitor, man." And he was like, "They're rare, but we can try." And then he got a call for one, and we ran out and grabbed that guy, and he was just sent me over the moon.
Looks pretty relaxed.
He's playing dead, or being limp to act dead at that point. So
this was just in somebody's backyard, or?
yeah. No, he got a call, and he only had a motorbike at that point, and he had just had shoulder surgery, and he's like, "I can't get there, but if you pick me up, like, let's go." And I was like, "You have no idea how cool I am with that. Let's do this." And 10 minutes later, we were grabbing a monitor from someone's backyard.
It's just so foreign. You see the people in Australia, and they got like carpet pythons in their house and stuff, and it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's the same for other people when we see like corn snakes and stuff in our backyards and whatnot, but to see something like that.
Yeah, like going out on calls with the guys, they're like, "Yep, it's a Cape Cobra," and just like it's like a garter snake. I mean, it's not. They do treat them like they're venomous, but just like, yeah, they're the most common snake that we have here. Those are tough adders.
That's wild to me. Like capes are easily probably my favorite as far as cobras go, species wise.
Yep.
So anytime, like when I saw that you'd come across a couple of those, man, it's like, would kill to see those.
Yeah, no, dude, it was again also they are my favorite. I will say I love Nivea, especially you get the speckled phase,
Yeah.
which I didn't know this. All the ones that I had seen, the speckled ones were like the gold with like the black speckling.
Mm-hmm.
You actually get individuals that are black with just a wee bit of gold speckling.
I believe it.
They're just beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't go wrong with them.
Yeah, I like the ones that have almost like the buttermilk racer look to them that are just super chaotic and yeah,
they're awesome, man. Definitely, and it was cool seeing them. I remember I was again like 19 years old and just at that point in my life a wild gun, and I almost bought a pair of them to keep in like to keep in my college dorm at that point. Like I just loved them so much. I'm so happy I didn't do that because but yeah, it was. Yeah, I just can't get over it, man. It was such a cool experience.
If I recall, capes are like one of the most toxic species.
They are, to my knowledge, the most venomous cobra in the world.
Those things are no joke.
Yeah, their venom is up to par with a black mamba, I believe. Yeah. The guys I was with, we were talking about that, and he was like, "Yeah, he's like, if I get bit by one, he's like, I've got a small flask of whiskey in my bag. I'm gonna find a nice shady tree, and that's it. That's life. I'm gonna go chill out and enjoy myself." I was like, "Damn." And this is a guy who's handling them, every day voluntarily. Right. I mean, like he just goes out and volunteers to go catch these things and remove them to keep them safe, which is so awesome. Again, I can't speak enough about those guys.
Well, there was also, I read something on Facebook the other day because there was some post about one of the free handling jackasses over there, and like, I guess there's an anti-venom shortage right now in South Africa.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so I don't know how serious of a shortage it is because they were talking about these guys really, it sucks that they're doing this because there's a shortage, and if you're getting bit doing something stupid, you're taking away from someone who might actually need it for a legitimate bite.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Which, yeah, it's so interesting because, you see the videos and stuff of these guys, and like tailing is a huge thing there. I mean, that's a normal thing. Same with like Australia, just tailing them. And
right.
But these guys have the same kind of mentality as us. And it made me laugh because they're like, yeah, we have guys that come here and do cowboy shit. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's literally what how I describe like free handlers and stuff. I was like, this is awesome. And yeah, they were talking about like there's a few guys in that region that catch snakes and stuff that'll just like they call it, instead of pinning, it's necking.
Mm-hmm.
They'll try to neck a puff adder without actually pinning it, just grab it. God. And there's a guy who's been bit like 3 times in like the past year, and they're like, he's a dipshit. And I'm like, yeah, But,
the lesson repeats as necessary.
Exactly, man, exactly. So, but yeah, it was cool.
As Phil's replacement for tonight, did you see any rink calls while you were there?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. Go like 2 pictures over. That's what I was waiting for. Phil. I met Phil with Loafman, and I knew he worked with them. So yeah, if you go over, I think 1 more picture, we've got a nice adult rink calls that we ran into.
I love that dark, just black, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, this is one that removed from a house too, man. I mean. And then my favorite is the next little guy that's got that nice white banding on it. Yeah, that guy there. That was a cool snake. And I didn't realize that just how often they play dead. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, like this thing stood up like this for about 2 minutes and then was like, oh, I'm dead. And just laid there. It was like get back up, do the cobra pose. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm trying to get pictures here. So, and he was just like, yep, I'm just going to be dead. So, yeah.
Well, it's wild, too, that the pattern looks like a Spedalapse.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of like a lubricus or something.
Yeah.
Do they all come out looking like that?
I actually have no idea, man. Honestly, I didn't get, I'm not super in tune with the Elaphids. But, yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah, there he is.
He's dead.
But it's so weird because I'm used to like hognose and stuff. These like basically harmless snakes playing dead, and then now we've got this toxic cobra that's like, oh, I'm dead. Like, what the heck, man? So it was an experience.
Were you guys wearing like face shields at all, or did you guys just keep a safe
Yeah,
distance?
glasses. Yeah, it was. We were wearing glasses every time we handled them. Actually, it was a pain in the butt because with that larger individual, all I had were sunglasses, and I was trying to get pictures of it, but I couldn't see through my my camera thing that well. So I'm trying to like sneak up my glasses while it's spitting and stuff. Yeah, it was a fun time, and they did spit quite a bit. But yeah, they weren't as I'm trying to. I had seen them before when I was interning at Denver, and I want to say those guys really didn't spit that much, and these wild ones they would just let it go.
Yeah, from what Phil has said, it sounds like sort of after a while in captivity, they kind of, I think, get the gist of the routine with stuff and kind of realize it's not worth the effort.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's wild. You got a species that spits, obviously bites, but then plays dead. So it's like if one of the three doesn't work, it's what do you do?
Yeah. At that point, you're just kind of SOL.
I think they just play dead, expecting someone to pick them up so they can tag them and run.
Get you back and then take off. That went through my mind too, actually. So.
Like they do that, thinking Americans will be like, "Oh, I'm a hognose. Pick me up and play with me." Attack your finger.
So
that's a nice looking puff too,
dude. The puffs were something, man. If you've never seen a large bitis, I think levitate. It'll get you. It'll scare you. That's for sure. It wasn't this one, but the I think the next picture. That guy, he did like the perfect strike up and levitate and turn. It was like, oh my god, like yeah, that guy. That thing was mental, dude. That thing was just off the wall. Did not want to be near anybody, and yeah. So, but they're brilliant there. I mean, one of the guys, he sent me a picture about a week ago after I'd got back, and he's like, "Hey, check this one out," and it literally is a puff that it's just gray. Like it's got the patterning and stuff, but it's just a gray. I don't know what genetics that would be, but it's a beautiful animal.
If it's like an axanthic or something, or some sort of
but
melanism.
I'm sure more pop up of them like anything else.
Oh, and that's one thing. Talking to the guys there, they both were talking about like, oh yeah, like we found a leucistic slug eater like 4 weeks ago, or we found this, and it just seemed like it was a lot more common for like the weird morphs to pop up or some weird genetic variant, which with the ball python world, I guess that kind of makes sense to me. So but yeah, they would just be like, yeah, we found this one, or we found this weird genetic, I don't know. So, but yeah, the puffs were definitely a highlight too, man. They're dirt common there, but like, God,
that would not get old to find, I would think.
I don't think so either, honestly. And there's so much like variation in them.
Yeah,
and that's the coolest thing. Like some of them have, and I guess the same with the cobras, especially the capes. But like some of them have that real nice caramel hue to them. Some of them have more of those browns, and I don't know. That's just
I can't. I don't understand the logic. I mean, I wouldn't free handle anything venomous, but I sure as hell, like a puff would be probably at the bottom of that list of species that I'd want to put my hands on.
Yeah, for sure. Even like pinning them, man. I mean, you pin these guys wrong, and they'll just drop a fang through their bottom lip and prick you. Like, and that's just it's just terrifying to think about that. Like, even when you think you're doing it right, like. So, but yeah, they're stellar, man. So,
Philothamnus.
Yeah, Philothamnus. So, which I wish that picture would have turned out a little bit better. It's a good portrait, but yeah, that was a cool one, man. That I worked with one of these species at St. Louis, and so seeing that guy was awesome. It was like, woohoo, nice brush snake. So, which they're cool, man. They blend in. It's a pain in the butt to see them.
Oh, I'm sure. I remember those coming in. Maybe not that species, but I remember
right
during COVID, they showed up and people were trying to sell them.
Yeah, they had them at a show not that long ago. Again, I don't know if it was that species in particular, but I'm pretty sure it was that same genus, and they were selling for like $30 a piece. I'm like, man,
yeah, they're not this species. They're just the African brush snake, I believe.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, they're a beautiful little green snake. Like, come on. But yeah, they're awesome, man. They're cool. Just can't. Yeah, and then there he is on the branch. So which cool one. I'm like I don't count it, but I am like 90% sure during my cruise through a doe, I saw a boomslang crossing the road, and of course it's like the game reserve, so couldn't get out of the car because there could be a lion or leopard rider. I tried. The people I was with, I was like, let me out. Like, I want that snake. But it was on the edge of the road doing the cool head movements that you see the boomslangs doing.
Yeah, the wind.
Yeah, and I couldn't get out of the car, man. They would not let me out, and I was like, just let me get to that thing. At least a cell phone picture. Like, come on. So
there's no lines around, man. We would have seen them by now.
That's where I was at. I was like, I know there's elephants like 300 yards that way, but that snake is only like 6 yards. So come on, what are the chances? But
I'll bet money that I can outrun that. There's enough distance.
Yeah, I don't think they'll close the gap quick enough for me to get back to the car. But if they prove me wrong, then pour one out. But
I don't know which one would be worse as far as like all the stuff. As far as like macrofauna between elephants and rhinos and lions.
Water buffalo, dude.
I know hippos kill a lot of people.
Or Cape buffalo, yeah, dude. They call them. I found this out. They call them the Black Death there, or hippos.
Hard pass.
Yeah, definitely. I'll mess with the cobras before that.
Harry asked if there were egg eaters in that part.
So yes. What species? I can't remember what species. But there. I think they're. Which ones are they? I don't know. Yes, there is. There is egg eaters. I have pictures of one somewhere. I don't think I posted them. I'll have to try to find them, but I did see one of those guys.
Yeah, Harry keeps some of those. I think that would be a fun species because it sounds like they're a lot more arboreal than maybe people think, and so they don't keep them.
Quite right.
As such, yeah, and like if I was gonna do one, dude, I'd totally deck out like a XA3 or something from BlackBox and put the little fake bird's nests and stuff in there and really like twig it out, and
yeah,
that's a really good looking house snake too.
Yeah, dude, and that's one. That was another one that was high on my list because I fell down the boa nun hole about 3 years ago. Loafman had those striped house snakes, lineatus, and he was having trouble getting his males to eat. And I was like, let me take them on. Let me see what I can do. Mm-hmm. And I got them going, and I was like, oh my god, these things are awesome. And so, of course, going there, I was like, I gotta see if I can find a house snake. And we turned this guy up. Which a lot of these guys, they're common. These are like garter snakes. Mm-hmm. Roll logs, and they're called house snakes for a reason. You can find them around settlements. They're pretty common. So yeah, he was a nice one. Man.
I've had people say they were, they're colubrid, but a lot of people sort of that I've talked to that have kept them have sort of said they're very python-like in terms of just their sort of their mannerisms and.
Yeah, I would have to say I agree with that, man. Feeding them is just they like my stripes have a awesome feeding response now, and they grab and coil, and it's just like quick. Like they grab and they get every single inch that they can around that prey item, and it's just it's very Python-esque. I'm trying to think of like a good species to.
I think Antaresia is kind of what comes to mind.
Yeah. Actually, that would be about perfect. Yeah, they're not. They are active, but they're not like that, colubrid, typical, like very curious, up and moving. They are more of a kind of a sedentary, chill, move a little bit, and they're They're cool. Which then this group of snakes, the boadon, it's going back through. The genus is getting worked on, I believe, again, and there's going to be some more splitting off of it. So it'll be interesting how some of these species shake out. I think the Aurora house snake is going to be monophyletic now, but
that would make sense because I mean, you look at those in comparison to like these, and they're very clearly different. You know, head structure wise, the skull structure and everything is very different. That would make sense.
I'm interested to see. I found that out again on this trip. One of the guys was telling me like, "Oh, it's all changing." So we'll see. We'll see what happens with them. But yeah, the house snakes, that was a cool one, man. It was exciting.
That's a group they've been on my list of stuff to get into for years, and it was never something I pulled the trigger on. I've seen some of the cheaper imports and stuff at some of the shows. I've been really tempted, but you know, with as much sort of taxonomic chaos is kind of going on with them, at least semi-recently. I don't want to get crosses, if that makes sense. Like if I'm going to do it, I want to get like something like the Capensis and then be like actual Capensis and not, you know, muddled up with other stuff. Yeah, we keep getting eggs out of our lineatus because I mean they breed. I mean they're not hard.
Yeah. I mean then they'll drop clutches, and exactly Brennan just commented, if he can keep the eggs going, man, we'll hook you up with some for sure. It's just for some reason they keep crashing on us. We can't quite figure out the reason for that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So do better, Brennan. Come on.
Did you see any captive collections while you're over there?
So no, not really. The most captive collection I saw was we actually went to find herpers, went to the university's herp department, and they had 2 corn snakes. Which again, you know, awesome corn snakes in South Africa. That's pretty dope. And then one of the guys I was with, he had a carpet python, which I think it was just like a mutt carpet, but he had one of those that had gotten I think confiscated, and he had acquired it because of that. So, but lot of the guys. Go ahead.
Let's say, what did they say? Sort of what laws they had in terms of that kind of stuff? It's like exotics and keeping it. And
so it depends on, I believe, the state you're in. So with Bloom, you can't keep any non-native venomous. You might not be able to keep any venomous unless you're like one of the snake catchers that removes them from properties. You're allowed to keep them to relocate them. But I do think you're able to keep some stuff, but I think a lot of it's more local, like nothing really truly exotic. I believe when you get into like Cape Town, because there is breeders out there that, you know, like there's a big house snake, bush-veiled, I think is the big house snake guys. So I think you can, but for the most part, a lot of it is confiscated, or if like a snake catcher goes out and finds an exotic through their permits, they're able to keep it because, you know.
Right. What else are they going to do with
it? Exactly. So I almost reached out to one of the guys in Johannesburg, 'cause that's where I flew in and out of, to see if I could tour like their big venom facility, but I didn't have enough time, unfortunately. So, but yeah, no, I don't think you can keep it's as broadly kept like as in the States. Like I think a lot of it is more like native species and stuff like that. And also I don't think the herpetocultural community is as developed. You know, I mean, we had people that would watch us mess with the snakes, and they were terrified, and they were 100 feet away. So like it's insane. So, but
Phil is in the chat. He said, with the rinks, is it Gauteng localities? Gauteng?
I have no idea. Let me look up and see where that's at. I can tell you if it's, because I'm guessing that's like a legit area of South Africa. If I was in that area, I'll tell you.
I like the ones that Phil has some that have they're like zebras. They have the really nice banding and stuff, and some have more of an orange rather than a white. But I really like that super dark, just black look of that one.
Yeah. So where I was at, I am south. I was southwest of the Gauteng area.
Hotang is what it's he's
Gauteng.
saying.
Okay. Yeah, I was southwest of that.
If he were here, we wouldn't have to worry about the pronunciation.
So,
I think I've seen pictures of these slug eaters.
dude, I found that thing and I did not have my book or my phone or anything that worked. And so I the first 20 minutes of me, I had a hook and I was working that thing like it was the most snake in the world, man. I was like, oh, what the hell is this? And then I finally got service and I was like, oh, okay, it is a slug eater. I was like, I thought that's what it was, but I wasn't taking a chance. Their musk smells just like our North American water snakes, man.
Oh,
it is potent.
Looks like a little brown snake.
Mm-hmm.
Just more brown.
Yeah, it reminds me of the earth snakes we have here.
Yeah. So, which is an interesting thing, the Cape Cobras. One of the guys told me this. Their musk and smells like curry, and it legit does. I was amazed. I just curry. That's what it is. It's amazing, but yeah.
Phil said he has FOMO. And then Sanchez said Phil's hemipenes are inverted. Chameleons.
Ooh.
Yeah. It was weird finding chameleons at 60 degrees. We were at the top. I don't know if I'll probably post a picture of the habitat where we found these guys. But again, we drove out to a mountaintop and we herped around looking for berg adders during the twilight hours and while the sun was setting. And the guy I was with, Merrick, was like, hey, give it about 5-10 minutes and start shining the tops of the grasses. And we did, man, and there was hundreds of these things.
That's crazy.
I mean, it was insane. Yeah, and these are an endemic to that area, so that was a really cool find. And thankfully,
how small are what was the adult size?
I mean, an adult on these guys is maybe 3-4 inches.
Oh wow, they look bigger in the picture.
Yeah, these guys are. I mean, they're little, man. They're very small.
So we're talking rivaling the Brookisha stuff.
Yes,
similar,
maybe a tad bit bigger than that. But yeah, they're nowhere near as big as you would think, and they climb up to the tops of the grasses at night. I haven't looked into why, but I would just guess it's to get rid of or get away from predators that are on the ground, because you're less likely probably get picked off by a bird at night rather than a snake or something cruising. So yeah, they climb right up on the top and the wind's blowing and they're just holding on for dear life as these grass tops are blowing all about, and you can shine them real easy. It was really cool. So, and then it's really interesting their strategies. So if they do get messed with, they just let go. So these things will fall 4 feet, hit the ground, and then just start climbing again. It is hilarious, man.
I mean, when you're that light, you're probably not going to get hurt too much because I'm sure they weigh next to nothing.
Oh yeah, absolutely, zero. So, but yeah, it was quite funny, man. Trying to photograph one and it just drops, and you're like, oh, cool.
I wonder if they fill the same niche as Strophorus, just in a different continent. Very similar, but yeah, that's super
surprised
cool.
me.
This little guy was maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches. He was tiny. He was a cool one to photograph. So and you can see that little black right there on his back. That's actually from him falling. He bruised himself, and that's what I shot this picture quick, and we were like, all right, let him go. We don't need to stress him out anymore. So yeah, that was another highlight, man. it was like, you want to go find chameleons? And I was like, I've never found a chameleon before, so of course I do. Like, who the heck doesn't? Come on.
Now they're in your backyard.
Yeah. Literally.
Oh,
Yeah, I gotta find the veils and stuff that are all around here. I've got a few spots, I just haven't made it yet. So
there's just so many of those sort of monotypic, odd chameleon species that, like, I still I come across them online still, and I'm like, I have never seen or heard of those before.
And it seems like every day Madagascar's got a new one.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that thing looks insane.
Those were cool because we met up at the guy's house that I was with, and we drove out an hour to go find those Smithsdorf chameleons, and we get back to his house and it's dark, and he's like, all right, let's go find these other ones, and we just walked across the street to some trees. He's like, they're all over here, start looking, and we turned up this male and then the gravid female in the next couple pictures. And it was just like, wow. And he's like, yeah, I've seen this male a handful of times. I come and check on him about it weekly, and this is his bush, and like, oh, that's awesome, man. I wish I could do that.
That's one reason I want to go back to Hawaii. Like, we lived there as a kid, and they've got Jackson's chameleons got introduced there at some point, and I want to go back to Hawaii to see those and the Aratus they have in the mountains there on Oahu.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. I got to go out there. My brother went to school there for a little while, so I went out there, and sadly, it was a family trip, so I didn't get much herping, but. Yeah, I'd love to get out there and see those Jackson. To my knowledge, they're all over the plantations and stuff.
Yeah, I believe it. Like, they were like selling them on the side of the road when I was a kid, and we lived there because we bought a pair. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, I guess that's not awesome. They're invasive, but it's funny. I swear, when I was there, dude, we were driving by the Dole plantation, and like a 3-foot green iguana shot across the road. And again, one of those situations where like 16-year-old Alec couldn't get out the car window fast enough to tackle that thing. I wanted it so badly, and yeah. But yeah, this girl was awesome, man. She was very, very, very gravid. Like she had to be carrying a bunch of babies, or was about to drop, man. She was huge. Mm-hmm. She was.
I'd imagine the lifespan on those isn't terribly long either.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I haven't quite looked into it, but if they get past 7 to 10 years, I'll be amazed.
So this was really cool.
So some of the best beach herping is in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, and these guys were right on a beach. And when you see them, you don't chase them. You let them run because they tuck into crevices, and you take a stick and you got to tickle them out. One of the best times I've had herping, man. It was so cool. Like, it just, and then there's just coastal waves hitting. I mean, there's crabs at your feet. It was awesome, man. It was sweet.
Yeah, that's a group that I got into just because of Phil, and how, Phil's kept a handful of species of Cordellis, and now when I see them, I got to stop and take a look at them and stuff. It's just a cool group.
Yeah. We got some in when I was at St. Louis, right before I got there. Like one of the species came in, and again, like you, had never really thought much about them, and then I saw those guys, and I was like, okay, like those are pretty cool. And then you can deep dive very easily into the genus and find quite a few cool species. So how do they do in captivity? I guess that's more of a question geared towards Phil. The ones that we kept in St. Louis were very flighty still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like from what Phil's talked about in the past, things going on outside of the enclosure definitely seem to keep them on high alert and giving them a place to where they can get some privacy, and there's visual barriers and things like that seems to do them some good. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what species he's kept.
Did he breed? He bred one or two of the species, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which one it was.
But then isn't there's one species or something in a different genus that people can only breed outside in South Africa in their native range, just in a pen?
The smogs?
I think so, yeah.
Stargazers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
that's one that I wanted to see was this one of the sun gazes because that's like one of the big herps for South Africa, but it just not enough time, man. I definitely am going to be going back, and now that I've got an idea of how it goes there, I definitely think I could get a decent herp trip out of it.
I'm assuming you guys struck out on bergatters.
Yeah, dude. Unfortunately, we didn't quite hit it right with the bergs, so we didn't hit it right with a lot of the snakes. Which it was unfortunate. I was out when we actually got this gecko, same hillside, and I had flipped a crossmarked snake, crossband snake, one of the Semophis species there.
Yeah.
And I just took a quick phone picture of it in my hand and was like, "Cool, that was the first flip of the day. It's going to be a great day. Let's do this." And then we didn't find a snake the rest of the day. And I was like, "Damn, should have photographed that." But we found a lot of other cool stuff. So.
See any scorpions?
Yeah, dude, bunch of scorpions. Which I think we saw like three species, but they came in. They were abundant. I mean, where those chameleons were at, man, we were flipping. What was that species? It's a larger black. I can ask the guys and let you know later, but yeah, they were all over. Like every other rock was a scorpion or two. Like,
was it like the Parabuthus or?
So.
Were they really were they really toxic? Were they?
So no. So we got some of the African fat tails. Mm-hmm. We got a few of those, but the ones that the more common were not. They were they're probably like the African flat rock scorpions.
Yeah.
Is that sound familiar? I haven't done scorpions.
Yeah. I kept some of those at one point. They're bizarre.
So, but yeah, I'm not for sure. I know I believe we saw 3 species. I could again be wrong. We did get some of the fat tails, but for the most part, I think it was those flat rocks that we were finding. So, which they were cool. These guys, these geckos, not where this guy was at, but back where that Cordylus was. We went back at night one time, dude, and these little spotted thick-toed geckos were all over the walkways. Like, you could just shine them, and they were just running all about. And again, it's like 60 degrees, and it's like, in my mind, Africa's warm and it's not, a coastal cool region, and the herps shouldn't be out, but these guys were running all about. It was cool.
That's really cool. Did you guys watch a few years ago? Frank Colachico did that Tinley talk on herping and geckos, and I think he talked about even there was a couple species of geckos on the beach, and it's like 50 or 40 degrees out, and you flip a couple rocks, and they're there, but it's like 40 degrees at night down in South Africa.
That's where some of these guys were at, the beach where I can't remember the endemic species of gecko that we went for, but we actually got there too late and it was too warm and they were just gone. Like they were nowhere to be found. He's like, once it gets too hot, man. But if you go out, like you said, when it's colder, you can turn them up. It's so weird in my mind thinking about that, because I always think of, warm, especially when it comes to Africa. You don't think of it having like more temperate zones and stuff. So. Yeah, it's another one. That skink guy was on the beach. Like, yeah. So this guy was cool because that actually that was found. We found that in bloom, and we sent that to the museum curator of their herp department, and it was a new record. They actually hadn't been recorded in the area. And I don't know how funny it was. I'm sure if you were like a fly on the wall seeing 3 adult men dip, duck, and dive through grass and rocks, these things were quick. And we missed one, and we got this second one, man. And we were like, this is going to be a pain in the ass to photograph. And we set it down, and it just stayed still for like 5 minutes. And it was like, oh, sweet. But yeah, he was a cool one, man.
The Jacksonville Zoo has some of I think it's the giant plateds, cohabbed with a really big African rock python, and it's funny to watch. Just these plated lizards are just literally like moving around this African rock to get to the food that they have on the little plates and stuff. And
that's awesome.
Like, those things just don't even exist in the African rock size. It's funny. They were just kind of there hanging out, and like there's a 10-foot Sibe right there hanging out.
Those mixed species exhibits, man, they can get cool. So we were talking about the egg eaters earlier. I don't know if you've ever been to like Sedgwick County Zoo in Wichita, Kansas. Last
David.
time I had talked to, yeah, they had egg eaters and I think quad frogs in together on display, and like that's awesome. It's just insane. So
Burrowing skinks.
yeah, that's another one that's an endemic. That was really cool. We found like 3 or 4 of them. I have a couple pictures with 2 together, and the legless skinks. They're just, they never get old for me. Like, so
That one looks big.
he was about like a foot and a half.
Okay.
So
Look at that beak.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, it was.
You can tell that thing's just built for digging.
Oh yeah, yeah. It just straight down to the dirt, man. If I took it off that rock, immediately it was just going straight down. So that's why it got.
I saw a video the other day of a Texas coral just disappear. It's like it wasn't a rocky pile or anything. It was literally just the ground in Texas, and this tenor just disappeared. Like it was nothing. Like didn't move anything. Like the dirt and stuff didn't shift. It just literally just disappeared.
It amazes me their ability to do that. My last day out with the snake catchers, we went to a place to remove a Cape Cobra, and we found it in a garden bed. And again, 3 adult guys, avid herpers. We got the tail up on a hook. All of us had this thing surrounded within like a 4-foot area, and it just disappeared. And like the garden was very small, and so it had to have gone between one of our legs, and that was like a 4-foot cobra at least. And yeah, dude, oh my gosh, talk about. And we were trying to dig up the grass. The landowners were really cool about it, letting us kind of tear up their garden trying to find this thing. But like I imagine that thing just going right over my foot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, wow, that's So these guys are cool. Because they're a smaller tortoise species, but the birds there have actually learned to pick them up, fly up, and drop them. They crack their shells and eat them.
Jesus.
Yeah, so like I found this I flipped him actually, and we took pictures, put him back, and we start walking down the path, and all of a sudden there's like 2 or 3 of their shells that had been dropped by birds and were just picked clean, and it was like, wow, that's just insane.
Well, it's just like the seabirds, I think, around here, they'll pick up crabs and you find shells like way in from the ocean. So it probably a convergent evolution or something like that.
Figuring it out.
Yeah, just behavioral stuff, man. It's just insane what they can figure out, man. What they learn.
That's wild because that shell almost looks fake.
Doesn't it? And see, like you look up pictures of them as adults, and it doesn't get any better. Like they look even faker to me. Like
I've never heard of this species. It's new to me.
Like, yeah,
it looks like a plastic pottery almost.
Right,
like a garden
decor.
Yeah.
So. Those guys, that was a cool find.
Do they have Connexus down there? Or is that too far?
I believe that's too far south. They might.
That's another one on my bucket list. Some species of Connexus. I don't even really care which one. They're all cool.
I think some do occur down there. I believe within South Africa, I know that some do.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think where I was at. So, yeah, they're another one, man, that they used to come in and just be sold so cheap, and you could tell they were imports. It was really sad, and people just weren't doing them justice. And finally, they're getting that attention.
Yeah.
So, which. At least they were. Last time I had heard of them, they were getting attention. Are they still within the herpetocultural world?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. Yeah.
What, Connexus or these guys?
Connexus.
I've never seen these guys before.
No, there's a couple. There's a couple of guys that are hyper focused on Connexus.
Okay.
You know, they've got a majority of the species, if not all of them. It's mostly Jeremy Thompson that does a lot with them.
Okay.
Yeah, these are cool too. This is like really reminiscent of some of the Redfoots in terms of like the structure and the head.
Yeah, it's just weird because environments are so different, but they've evolved to have that bright head, and they're not that large of tortoises. I actually think I don't think they get much larger, but he was cool. We were walking a trail, and he literally was just eating flowers on the side of the trail. It was like, wow, that's a tortoise. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've never seen a
South African box turtle.
Yeah, and they're common. Like I saw like 3 or 4 of them while there. Like we were in Ado Elephant Park, and I think I saw like 3 within a day there, and they were like crossing the road and stuff. And the leopards, dude, they're a dime a dozen. They're all over the place.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a guy. So it got we were cruising down to, it was about an 8-hour drive to Port Elizabeth, and I made the 2. We were with 2 guys from South Africa, my friend and I made them whip over so I could grab this leopard tortoise that was crossing the road, thinking it was like a box turtle, in the eastern United States, and there's like semis screaming by past me and stuff. Like, gotta save the tortoise, man, but they're all over. So I actually saw 2 males pursuing a female. That was really cool, chasing after her and like courting her and stuff. So we were doing some work with the giraffes. It was pretty awesome.
This is the smaller subspecies, right? Or like I did a deep dive on tortoises like a month ago, and from what I could find, there was actually like 2. Like there's more like a Ethiopian species or somewhere a bit more north that's a lot bigger, and then there's like the South African stuff that's generally smaller. From what I was able to find.
Yeah, I mean, all the ones I came across were relatively small. I mean, they were like a little bit larger than like your typical like redfoot, yellowfoot, but nothing like you see the real big ones. Nothing like that. They were all smaller. So this guy was cool. I regret this is a phone picture. I actually didn't take my camera out and grab a photo of this clicking stream frog because we were trying to find clawed frogs. And I was just like hell bent on finding one of those guys. And I was just like, oh, clicking stream frog, cool. I set him on the ground, click, and just let it go. And then, we never found a quad frog. I was like, damn, should have spent some more time with him. But they were cool. They were all over. This is the area where my buddy was like, yeah, if people come, get into the bushes.
No.
So,
were you looking for the clawed frog you were looking for? Was this like a different species than the one we normally see over here?
No. It's the same. It's the Lavius. They were introduced, I believe, to that area.
Oh, okay.
So, but unfortunately didn't see any. So next time maybe. But yeah. So
what was a species out of what you found, whether you got pictures of it or not, that you were not expecting to find? Like surely there was stuff you were assuming you would see, and then what was something that maybe you found that you weren't thinking you would?
Honestly, the stuff I thought I would see would be like the Cape Cobra, the puff adder, and probably the wrinkles. Those were the 3 I was like, hey, like I'm gonna see these, like whatever else I find, and I didn't do probably the right thing. I waited to like actually read a book about reptiles of the area until I was flying over there. And so it was very last minute, like, oh, that'd be cool. Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. But yeah, most of the stuff wasn't really on my radar. I went over there and the monitor was my main goal, and then whatever else I kind of found I thought was cool. Of the stuff I found, definitely probably the chameleons. Those like took the cake for me. If we would have seen some of the other adder species, some of the other smaller bitis, I mean, like I was right in the range of the Albany adder, Bitis albanica, which is one of the rarest like vipers, snakes in the world. I think only like 27 have been found ever. And it was like,
Yeah.
okay, like, let's go. And I tried to talk my guy into taking me to that place. And he's like, it's all private land now. It's like, let's do it. And he's like, as long as you can outrun me, we're good. And I was like, exactly, man. I know I can't, so you're safe. Trust me. They'll take me out first. But
is it like here, like in the South, where if you're trespassing, your likelihood of getting shot at is fairly high?
So it's weird because like they driving when we drove across, to Port Elizabeth, it actually somewhat reminded me of like the plains of the US. Like it's just massive tracts of flat land, and a lot of the guys that own farms there actually own like an insane amount of land. Like it takes them all day to go from one side to one side to the other. Like it's crazy. And so I would think you would be able to like, jump in and out, but for the most part, from the people I talk to, they're like, if you just reach out to like a landowner, like most of the time they're cool with it. Especially if you're going in for snakes, they're like, yeah, like get them out of here for me, please, like whatever. But I'm sure there's still those people, so that'll go after you. The scariest part, man, is just like when you're hitting up a hillside and like kind of the urban environment, because there's I was told if you look at somebody wrong, you'll get stabbed. Like, and some of the guys I was with, they're like, yeah, like we had a taxi guy that was like, yeah, if I would have picked you up over there behind that corner, I would have robbed you, and then I would have left you. And it was like, wow, okay, like, So yeah, for the most part, it's more situations like that where it's like, okay, and
you're riding around District 9.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, that plated lizard, that was cool. And it just the whole aspect of catching that thing. We had just like we had found a cave on this guy's property, and we climbed into it, and that was really cool. Checking out the inside of this cave that I think there was like carvings on the outside of it, and I want to say it had been that carving was from like the early 1900s, and there was old bottles and stuff. And then right after that, we found a new locale for that plated lizard. And as a scientist, that's always cool because then instead of the museum, they're like, hey, we didn't know that was there. We'll have to check it out. And it's like, sweet, I helped out, kind of progress the area. So,
well, how far removed was that animal from sort of the documented range?
I actually don't know. I'll have to hit up the guy I was with. I haven't done much research into some of these guys, like I said, as I probably should have. But I don't think it was anything crazy. Probably, I wouldn't say more than probably 50 miles, maybe even less. So, but yeah, it was cool. And then, we didn't find quite the number of snakes that I wanted to get. So next time, definitely hit that up. And I think venturing out and doing other areas, that would be cool. Because where I was at, Bloom was awesome. It was higher elevation and really, really hot. So, like we got up to like 104.
Wow.
My last couple days there. So like it was pretty dead once you got past about 10 o'clock, stuff wasn't moving. But yeah, man, it just a lot of those little weird endemic species, those dwarf chameleons. There's nothing better than just shining little tiny chameleons that are sitting on the top of grass,
Where, like, when were you there? Like, what time of the year was that? A bad time of year to be going and looking as compared to?
So I was there. My understanding was it was actually a pretty decent time. I think I was on the tail end of what's going into their summer. So it was just starting to really warm up. Like, so yeah, it wasn't, I had talked to, I did the normal thing when I decided I was going to South Africa. I jumped on Instagram and social media, and I found some herpers in the area and was like, yo, can you help me out? Like, what do you think? What have you been to this area? And a few of the guys that I had talked to were like, you're going at a fairly decent time. You should turn up some good stuff. So, and then of course.
Have you thought about going to Namibia or any other African countries?
So, yeah, I would love to venture back over there. I mean, honestly, any of those countries, it's called the Dark Continent, for a reason. There's a lot of cool stuff. I've got a friend that's doing some work up in Morocco right now for his PhD, and I haven't messaged him yet, but I'm about to be like, hey, do you need a hand? Because I'll pay my way if I can come hang out with you. So, but yeah, I mean, of course, like the Congo, that would be amazing. Like, come on, like, got to think about what you could find that just no one else has seen. Tanzania is big on my list. Again, those black throat monitors, man, those are near and dear to my heart. So if I could get up there and jump through some of the species in that area, that would be cool. And then, I mean, get up in the Sahara. You know, there's so much to do. And then of course Madagascar. That's another one that's really high on my list. I've got a lot of places I want to go, but I've got to find the funds to get there. You know.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah, man, I'd be going on a Atheris tour right across that central belt there, so you can find every species I possibly can.
Yep.
Oh,
I mean, like, dude, Ethiopia. I was just going there for the simple Parviocula, those Ethiopian mountain vipers. Like, come on. Like, have you seen one of those things? They're beautiful. So, I definitely, I would love to adventure and kind of explore more of Africa. It just, whether it's safe or not, that's the biggest thing, and that's the hardest part is it can change all in a second, with a lot of those countries. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be venturing back over there. Hopefully South Africa again, and then I'd love to go to a few other places. So I think Madagascar is. I like the Leoheterodon, mad cats, like all that cool stuff. So, and of course, Europlatus species. Like,
dude, that's like that'd be
yeah.
Target number one was like any Europlatus species I could see. That would be. I have such a soft spot for that whole group, man.
Like, what's it, Sicari and Fibriatus? Yeah. I worked with those. We kept those at home, and like it was like what the hell? Like this is awesome. So any of those guys would just be. It's just such a unique place. Like you've got the world of chameleons there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many species because there's so
a lot.
Yeah, a lot. That's and then you have you have all the Europlatus. You have the weird snakes. And of course you get into the boas. That's another one that we currently work with is Doomerals, and I've worked with ground boas, man. And you get the Sanzinia. Like you can't tell me a Sanzinia is ugly, please. Like, so seeing any of those guys, and to my knowledge, those guys are actually, I believe, more common. Like you can find Sanzinia pretty easy there. I say that, and then I'll go and not see one. But
sounds like all four species are fairly common from what I've heard.
Are they?
But that's just from listening to podcasts and hearing people talk. But that's what it sounds like. Is there all of that stuff's kind of common, yet there's CITES one kind of thing. For no reason.
Well, Madagascar has also been one of those countries that's sort of ping-ponged a lot between like opening and closing and just
back and forth, man.
Yeah, it's very, very odd.
Hey, whenever the government is in need of a little boost or a little bit more money, it seems that all of a sudden exportation's allowed, and then they kind of get that boost, and they're like, well, no, we're not going to do it. So, but I mean, there's a lot of countries are like that. Tanzania used to be like that. I used to love watching. Because, again, black throat monitors, I used to love watching the market with those guys, and you could tell, like, it would close, and it was like, they would shoot up in price, and it's like, okay, give it a year, and then a year would come by, and, they're cheap again.
Yeah, I think I saw black throats for $8.50 Canadian up here at a show.
I bought my first black throat for $65, and it came with a heat lamp. Like,
exactly.
Like I bought an adult female when I was in high school, and I think I paid $300 for her. And then I ended up turning around, and when I went to college, I got to love my family. I went to college, and I left them with 2 giant black throat monitors and about 10 snakes in a basement. And, man, I was like, I got you guys a Miss King. You just got to pour water in the bucket and throw rats over the wall. It's easy. And after a year of that, my mom and dad and brother were like, yeah, we got to move them. So I ended up selling them to a guy. And, it's funny, man. They're good time.
Oh yeah.
Am I wrong? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of people doing much with the ground boas.
So again, that's another one that years ago, you found they were kind of cheap, like $100 a piece, and about 4 years ago, I think they shot up and they went from $200 to like $800, and there's a handful of people working with them. I don't know exactly who it is. Honestly, guys, I've been terrible at keeping up with that kind of stuff just from being busy. But
the ground boas or the Doomerals?
The Doomerals. Yeah.
I think they're here. They're priced at $400, but there was like 2 or 3 litters this year, and I think the market's already saturated. And people
Really?
people are already trying to dump adult animals, and plus you got what is it, Environment Canada or somebody, like they always knock on people pet store. Even some of my buddies in Alberta, they knocked on some of their doors, being like, "Oh, where's the CITES permits for these Dumerals and these Argentine boas?" And it's like they've been in the country for 40 years, like they don't exist, like nobody's had them. So
Yeah.
but yeah, like that stuff here, they kind of have a market. Like they're cool and people, but then in 3 years when nobody's bred them, they'll probably go back up. But
Oh, it's a trend, man. It's they're a hot commodity one year, and then like you said, it just goes down and nobody wants a thing to do with them. Which that's fine with me. I think they're cool, so I'll keep working with them. Like why the hell not? The ground boas. I wish you got to see more of those guys in private collections. That's one that you just don't see, and they're a really cool snake. They're a big cool boa, man. That's just different. So, but yeah,
I don't know if it was Harry we were talking to recently or someone else, but they were talking about how they're fairly certain their Dumerals is actually a cross with the ground.
Really,
yeah,
interesting.
I wouldn't be surprised, man. That happens so often, and I mean I get it, but it also kind of sucks because you don't have pure animals at that point, and that's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother day. But yeah,
I would almost think that's hard. Just hearing from Bill Hughes's NPR episode from like 8 years ago, he talked about how his ground boas would kill each other until they got 8 feet, and then they finally started breeding normally after they got 8 feet, after like 3 years of trying to breed them. But yeah, like it would be interesting to know if they could even like if they would just try to eat each other or something, if you were trying to hybridize them.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting one. I don't know.
Bill's bred a lot of really cool stuff, though.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah.
Wow, like every time I'll see his name pop up on something, like Hughes bred these couple, however many years ago, and it's like, man, those two, like, good lord.
Have you seen his baby cages with the like shoe display things?
Yeah,
I want to try those for Kylobothris.
Are they the fold down ones?
I think
like they have like the. Okay,
so.
I haven't seen his, but I remember seeing them like in 2018 or 19. Those shoe things for selling, being like, I wonder if you could like someone's gonna.
He did.
Like
he has
that's okay. That's
Urshirai
awesome.
in them.
Really, dude. That's another Rushis, man.
It'd be cool to bring those up here. I'm not sure if I'd want to keep them, but it'd be cool.
I definitely wouldn't mind some, but at the same time, the people that I've talked to about them, that keep them, they said they're really horrible.
They're scrub pythons, is what I've heard. They're like a wild scrub.
Scrub cross on Amazon.
Yeah, basically, man. One of the guys, he was a boss of mine. He had a pair of those and a pair of annulateds, and I was like, "Hey, like, come on, man, let me take them." And he never did, and I was like, "Damn, I could have had those next to my." Yeah, I could have had those the Rushis next to my. I had a Maruke scrubs. Have them side by side. I would have loved that. That would have been an awesome display.
I love the really high black Rushis. I forget which locality that is. I don't think it's the Venezuelan. I want to say it might be like the Costa Ricans, but
maybe the Trinidads. It's hard.
I
know the Trinidads probably
really high black.
From what Dr. Booth says, it sounds like the Trinidads are more just like a
monotone
project thing with him and the government of Trinidad or something. So I'm not sure if he's even allowed to drop those into private collections or not.
Really?
But that's still cool that he has them and that he can do some research with them and he's bred them already.
Yeah.
It also sounds like babies are an absolute nightmare to get going, which doesn't really surprise me either.
No.
It's like all the really cool stuff is the most difficult to get started.
Well, it's got to be. That's why it's really cool, right?
Oh yeah, probably animals.
You got to work for it, man. You got to work for it. So, but yeah, I'd love to. The Corliss, man. That group of snakes, I kept a pair, kept one off here and there, and never really dove into them. And again, just got offered an awesome deal on some and ended up buying. I got a trio. It was a male, female. Sadly, the male passed away, but they were lineaged animals from a platinum, which was like the grandsire, and it was an all like brilliantly gray silver animal that they'd been trying to get back to, and I got offered, like I said, a good deal, and I was like, screw it, like let's go. And then a tiger female got thrown into that we're raising out now, and I'm actually super excited, man. And she's weird. So the guy who bred her, he's that old boss of mine. He actually was selecting for less of the striping. And so it's got that black, but it's more broken up. And yeah, we're really excited to try to get her up. I think maybe next year she'll go. So we got to find a nice male to put her with and see what she can do.
So. Some of the stuff that's popping out of Amazons now, man, like what people have been working for and breeding for is just nuts compared to how it was 20 years ago. Like they've come a long way, and I feel like we're still not even we're really not even unlocking the full sort of potential there.
Yeah, you've got a few of those guys that have just stuck with them and done them so much justice. I mean, like those nice high reds, those garden phases that are like super contrast. They have a lot of oranges and stuff mixed in, the calicos. Yeah, I remember it was, what was it? We used to be like the garden phase, like a yellow, like a muddy orange red animal. Like those were your Amazons. And now I think, what's it like? There's the tigers. There's a bunch, man. It's really cool to see that they're actually developing. Hopefully the populace of herpetoculture can get past the nippiness and they can kind of get the respect they deserve and people can keep them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're sweet. I know there's a few people working with them up here. Cody Joe has some cool stuff, and Don Patterson has some nice stuff as well. All those guys hold back all the reds. Like half the clutches look reds. They ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, they're building those Canadian lines, right, man?
Definitely seems like it.
Yeah, I miss keeping them every now and then, and sometimes I'll see somebody have a litter of them, and I kind of get the urge to I could just do like a pair of them. Like, that's all I need. But then I don't know. Again, it's one of those things where it's if I could devote the space to it, I would. But I gotta kind of pick and choose my battles at this point.
Yeah, it's very easy to say, "Hey, I'm just gonna get a pair," and then you end up with 20. That's my problem, and that's one thing I get yelled at by Brennan. Again, he's the one that's got all the snakes right now, and I'm like, "Hey, you seen these guys yet?" Or I love every month or two, I just drop a random genus of snakes in a group chat with him, and I'm like, Brennan, have you ever looked at these before? And he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to Google it.
Not even going to bother. Yep.
He's like, stop. Why are you doing this? And I'm like, because I like them, and you like them, then cool. Like, let's go. Like, let's get these guys. I can't remember the last ones I did, but it was hilarious. Telescopus. Like, I randomly ran down the rabbit hole on them when I was like, starting with the European snakes, because I was the nerd that was going to know all the snakes of Europe, and all of a sudden I started working down Africa and all the different, like the Telescopus Dara and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, I was like, those are sweet. So I was like, hey, check these out. And I don't think he has yet, but one day he will, and then we'll have like 20 of those. It's fine with me. So.
I think Phil still has one or two. I don't remember which species he got, but he had some.
Interesting. Oh, so he did get them?
Yeah, I know he was having to wrap pinkies in like gecko shed to get them. Make sushi.
That's the fun of it, man. That's the fun of it.
Oh yeah.
Gotta stay dedicated to the craft.
I mean, that's kind of the I guess benefit of being in with the like underground and those guys that bring stuff in all the time is you kind of get to see the things before they hit the shelves kind of deal.
Oh yeah. And you could always start like I want to breed this species that doesn't exist in the hobby on like a breeding scale, and I'm gonna buy 20 of those.
Yeah, you're the guy who gets every single one that's been brought in the country in the past 4 years, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I figured it out. Here you go.
Yeah. I think it's still gonna be years before Matt lets those red and black snakes out.
Yeah, man.
He breeds them. He's like, oh, here's clutch number 5 of the year, and it's like,
where are you keeping them all?
You sold one pair so far.
Oh my God.
But it's his. He's from what I've heard, he spent a insane amount of money on that project. So he might as well.
He had to go
whatever
through
he
a lot
wants
of
with those things
to get successful with them.
Oh yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like one of those projects where it's like you can't just start with a pair or trio and expect it to take off. It's like you gotta you got to load up because you're going to lose some animals, and
Oh yeah.
you'll see some of the importers have some of those for sale periodically, and I'll send him a link and be like, look at that. And he's like, it'll be dead in 3 months. Like, okay.
Yeah,
So,
what was it? Loafman with the velvet swamp snakes or whatever.
Oh yeah.
He ran. I remember when he was getting those, man. He was just trying and trying, and I think he's finally started hitting them with stride more. But like, yeah, just it's nice to have those people though that are dedicated to those weird, obscure, cool species. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
well, it's also odd too when you have a species like those striped snakes that most has is like they're not difficult to keep, and it doesn't seem like they're difficult to breed and produce. It's literally just a numbers game to where it's like there's just not enough of them around for people to A, know about them, and then B, make more of them. I think that's kind of how it was with rough scale pythons for a long time, and rhino rats. It was like not hard to keep, not hard to make more of. It's just like there's literally just not enough people that have them to be able to get them sort of off the ground into the hobby.
Oh yeah.
It's nice with like these podcasts and stuff and social media. Like the word's getting out now more so than it used to. You're not just relying on a price list that has no pictures or anything. You can post something and it's awesome. It's cool.
We joke all the time that like I single-handedly raised awareness about Baird's rats just by talking about them on here.
Oh yeah.
It was you and it was one other guy that I talked to. He's a St. Louis keeper that he worked with them, and yeah, like I remember talking to him about him, and then I think I heard you on a podcast and was like, okay, like I want to check these things out, and then it was like, oh, okay. All of a sudden, I think I messaged you and was like, hey, I think I want some of those one day. I don't think so.
Yeah, we need some more Loma Altas. You need to breed them again.
I know. I'm not going to this next year. I'm giving that female. I'm not doing any Bairds this upcoming season. Actually, I'm just taking the year off from them. But yeah, I kind of wish I had done the Loma Altas again this year. Instead, I just did hets for hypo. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that girl from you is definitely starting to put some size on, and the silver is really coming through now.
Yeah, dude. I have like 1 or 2 holdbacks, and they're starting to get that orange is starting to come in, and I'm hoping it won't be next year, but next season after next, I'll have my Mexican should be ready to go. So that'll be exciting because I really like those a lot.
Yeah, you don't see those much around. Well, like you did. Like I definitely saw them on Morph Market last year. Seems like it was like everybody produced their Mexicans last year.
There's an odd
but
sort
now,
of resurgence of them, and then they kind of fell off again. I don't know. It's bizarre.
Yeah. Maybe it was just everybody who wanted them bought them, but it's they'll come back hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was odd because like for the longest time I was like, man, there's like next to no one in the States that seems to have any of the Mexican types, and then all of a sudden you had all these people selling them, and it's like, okay, maybe there's more people that had them than I thought.
Yeah, it was just like the Trumbauers and that probably, and then they sold 1 or 2, and then people had them, but they didn't really probably. There wasn't a need for them to breed them because people just look at them as a gray little rat snake when really it's a bear. It's not your normal eastern rat.
Well, too, with that, guys, there was, I forget the guy's name that got busted smuggling a bunch of stuff out of Mexico. So, how many of those came through on one of those shipments, and then he gets busted and everybody kind of freaks out about that and gets rid of him quick because they're worried to be tied into that,
Yeah.
I think all the Mexican stuff is from like San Antonio Zoo line or something.
Is it?
Those, yeah, and there was one guy that I think was with the zoo that brought in sort of the initial group. But there's another zoo line, I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one, but I think there was 2 zoo lines.
Is it another Texas zoo?
I believe so.
Dallas or Fort Worth.
That might be Fort
Worth. With an old-time keeper that they did a lot of stuff. When I got my Janai, it was like starting to really get into those. I had talked to him, and he's like, "Oh, with the zoo, we used to go cruise those things all the time." And I was like, "God, you're so lucky."
Dude.
Yeah, I think that was the same with the Linocolus or Lineanicolus
Yeah.
Pituovis.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that was another
Yeah.
zoo.
Those things are wicked.
Those are
Oh, yeah.
weird too, man. It's
Dude, I want those
Sublock
so
in
badly.
Pituophis form. It's just they're strange.
Yeah. So yeah, those Mexican pitties, dude. Those things are. I remember seeing the Genii. Just honestly, Mexico in general, it's got some awesome species.
does.
I'm trying to plan a trip down there with some friends. I think here in the next year or two. But yeah, they've got some awesome stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, all the Crotalus and those climbing salamanders and
Yeah.
just like so
Abronia.
much random stuff.
Yeah, it's
You could do 10 trips there, not find
Oh.
anything that you actually wanted to find.
Yeah, what's the subspecies? It was a subspecies of Mojave with the pink Slowenii, I think, or what is it? It's a Mojave rattlesnake that's got pink on it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that thing is just
Sloveni,
stellar.
I think, is what they are.
Yes, Sloveni. I can't remember. Are they a full species now? Or are they still?
I think they are a full species now.
They are full. I know I believe a lot of Mexican biologists are elevating and doing work down there, which is awesome.
Yeah, the Herp MX guys they've been putting in a lot of work over the years.
Yeah.
Like all kinds of new stuff coming out of the woodwork. Just in amphibians alone, they've been finding all kinds of stuff.
And Abronia and all that. Even Webi, I think they've been breeding. Somebody's been breeding Webi from, I think, probably Chris, or maybe it was Lassiter, maybe. Somebody mentioned that they're breeding Webi, I think, down at one of the universities in Mexico. Nice.
We had some of the mixed Quadralis at St. Louis, and those guys were cool.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
They were. And then what was it? The Lancehead rattlesnake, Crotalus. What was that? I can't remember the scientific name, but it's like the Mexican Lancehead, and that guy was cool. Polystictus, I believe.
Yeah.
Polystictus. Yeah, those guys, those were really cool, man. I love those small and cool, weird Crotalus species. They're just get some of the Zacatecas locality like Clobberi.
Yeah, some of those localities of those, like, just crazy that you can just go, a handful of miles over the border and have something that looks so different from the stuff in Texas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I remember I was like a freshman in college, and I have family down in San Antonio, so we of course went to the zoo. Got to go to the zoo. Got to see the Herp building, and I hung outside a door and just waited for a keeper to walk out. And two did, man. And I jumped on and started talking to those guys, and before I knew it, I was in their hibernacula, seeing all their stuff, man. And I was like 18-year-old Alec was just like, hell yeah, this is awesome, man.
Just went from 6 to midnight.
Yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, like this is awesome. And yeah, it was cool. I've got some pictures from that. I know they had a lot of just the different rocks and stuff. Like it was, so they're like, their Komodos were there, and we had to walk over the catwalk where the Komodos were at. That's a cool place. They're doing a lot of cool stuff with the Mexican stuff there.
Yeah, they did a lot with, weren't they doing, like, Bothriechis was a big one.
I'm not sure about that. I don't remember seeing any when I was there, but it has been, now years. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're working with Bothriechis and stuff.
I think, yeah, there was like Aurifer, and then I want to say they were doing stuff with Marchi.
Okay. Aurifer are just beautiful, man. We had one of those in St. Louis, and yeah, they're a stellar animal.
They are. It's a cool group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people just see the Schlegs and they end up, they end their search there and don't realize just how crazy some of those other species can get.
Bicolor, man, that's where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
Those check all the boxes for me. God, those things are gorgeous.
Yeah.
What conjures are y'all doing stuff with?
So right now we actually only have one. We've got oh god, Brandon's gonna murder me if I get this wrong. I think it's an Aru. I think we just have an Aru that he picked up from Clockwork. It's one that he kind of caught the bug and was like, I want to get a conjure. When him and I first met, he had never had a snake before in his life, and he decided we were gonna get basins, and I was like, let's not do that. you don't need those as first snakes. I was like, we can do it, like we can care for him, but let's not. So yeah, he settled on that, and he ended up getting that Aru, which Yeah, they're cool, man. I remember when they would come in at when I was working at that store in Colorado, and of course, Bushmasters right there, Clockwork, and all those guys. So we had chondros were all over all the shows and stuff, and it was just awesome.
Can't have enough of them.
Oh yeah.
No, you can't. Do you know anybody else that's working with those Canary Island animals? I know Vogel right. Vogel
Yeah,
was?
Chuck Vogel's really, and any like serious numbers of those. He's the only one that I know of.
Okay. He's got some awesome Janai too. If you've seen his Janai,
I don't think.
He posts in those groups often, or
Yeah,
I feel like I've seen that name somewhere.
Yeah, it's a rolling line Janai, which like I had talked to him and deep dove into it kind of with him one time. I managed to catch him on Facebook Messenger, and it like the line comes from a guy he like grew up next to that had been keeping the things for years.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, like he's like, yeah, I think I'm the last one with the exact line, but they're his animals they're all between the chondros and those Janai. I was like, wow, you're a badass dude. Good job.
That's cool.
Yeah, he hasn't been online a whole lot the last 2 or 3 years. I think he got COVID and he just had some health issues following it.
That's exactly what I've seen.
Checks in periodically and posts some pictures and stuff, but I don't know. But yeah, as far as the yellow Kofiel type stuff, he's the only one that I know of off the top of my head that's doing anything serious with him.
Yeah, those animals those are awesome. I remember seeing them, and they're cool chondros, man.
He was at Southeast Carpet Fest a couple years ago. I want to say that was like 2018 or 2019. I didn't get to talk to him, but he was there. I think I was pretty hammered at that point. It wouldn't have mattered anyways. I wouldn't have been able to have a serious conversation with him.
The rare Schmitty.
Right.
Schmitty state.
That's funny, man.
Well, we're at the that 2 hour mark. If people want to get in touch, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, just through Instagram, Facebook. Facebook, just my name. Instagram is just my last name, first name, and 21, I believe, is my handle. Brett and I also have a Facebook. I think we have a Facebook and Instagram page for our herps that we are horrible at actually posting on. It's Anchor and Arbor Exotic is what we're going with. So yeah, just reach out. Like I said, if you have questions or anybody wants to talk further about anything, just reach out to me. I also wanted to give a shout out. Like I said, those guys in South Africa, the snake catchers, herpers guys I ran into are awesome. And there's one that is he posts really great content. His name's Merrick, and he's just Wild Merrick, Instagram and Facebook, YouTube. Check him out because he's got some awesome stuff he posts, and you can see a lot of the cool endemic species to that Port Elizabeth area. I think he pulled a boom sling out of like a woman's backyard like 3 days ago. He messaged me and he's like, the curse is over, because he hadn't found a snake since I had been there. And he's like, I got a boom sling. And I was like, right on, man. Like, that's badass. So definitely check him out. Support him. He's a really cool guy, and he's just trying to make it work, catching snakes and stuff in South Africa. So
yeah, I'll have to look at that. Sounds familiar, so I may have already be following him or had seen some of his stuff, doom scrolling through Instagram endlessly, but we'll see.
Yeah, I like we ran into that herp department, and within 5 minutes I had one snake catcher in Bloom messaging me. I met him, and like 20 minutes after talking to him, he had put me in contact with the Merrick, and it was like set. I was good. I was like, right on. Thank you guys. So like I said, they're awesome out there. If you ever make a trip, don't feel shy about reaching out to some of the herpers in the area and the snake catchers. They can definitely help you out. So
no.
Awesome.
Right on. Well, hey, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mike, thanks for hopping in. I know it was kind of last minute.
No worries. It's always great to get on and talk snakes and reptiles in general with anybody.
Absolutely.
We'll see you guys later.
That's right.
Alrighty.
We'll be back Thursday for the final show of the year for the network. This episode was brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Check them out. Facebook, Instagram. There you go. It's up there somewhere. It's all reversed and weird. Use the code THN to check out. Get 10% off your order. Save on shipping and freight if you're in the Southeast area. of the U.S., and there's a pickup option available. Grab yourself a trailer, grab yourself a U-Haul, and just jet on down there and grab it. Get more bang for your buck. Then the best coffee around. Cold-blooded caffeine, Snakes and Stogies blend. Get it down below at the link in our bio. The glare is kicking my ass. There we go. Mexican Rwandan blend. Very objectively a very good blend. It's very good. I can't wait for my box to come tomorrow. Because I got one of the pour over things too. I'm gonna take it with me on vacation as well and force my family to drink it. Yeah, link down below. Me and Phil get a little something if you buy. Puget Sound Pythons, check it out. Yeah, this is like a prop bag, sort of like it's got beans in it, but they're probably past the point of being able to do anything with them. But it doesn't matter because it's here for decor, but you can't see it because of the camera angle anyways, so doesn't matter. Puget Sound Pythons, give them a follow. Facebook, Instagram, follow on Morph Market. Stay in the loop with what they're doing. They're good people. Fulvius Apparel, fulviusapparel.com. Get yourself a shirt, a hoodie, all that good stuff. Also, use the code THN at checkout. That is 15% off of your order. That is the exclusive code that you only get here, thanks to viewers and listeners like yourselves.
I definitely need to get some of those Fulvius shirts there. Those latest ones you got out are definitely awesome, and everybody needs to get some of those.
Thank you. I got a couple more I got to add. Unfortunately, I found that Microsoft was selling the Halo Master Chief Collection for like $10, and so all weekend, instead of me actually doing something productive, I ended up getting sucked into being 12 again and playing Halo. And it's been great. I'm not even complaining. My child has been enjoying it, so
that's always good. You gotta have fun. You can't just
it's bonding.
Be work all the time.
Yeah, but then I feel guilty because I'm like, there's so much other stuff I need to be doing right now, but instead I'm sucked into.
It's the holidays. You can take some time to yourself.
Well, it has all 4 in the series, and then you could get Reach and ODST separate if you wanted to. But now I'm like, I'm working on the first campaign, and it's like, of course, I gotta see the whole thing through. I gotta do them all. So yeah, we'll be back Thursday night. Again, don't know if it'll be live or not. We'll see. Got to see what the gang wants to do. Last show of the year. We will see everyone later.
Alrighty. Peace.